In around 2010, I discovered Pokemon on YouTube. I would watch channels like Maryland, Shofu, and Hayden make a wide range of Pokemon videos, and soon after, a new trend started to rise. That trend was Nuzlocking. Nuzlocking was a bit different back then and much simpler than it is today, but the idea of not being able to use a Pokemon again after it fainted one time was really interesting to me. I watched as many Nuzlocke videos that I could, so shortly after Pokemon Black and White came out, I decided to start my very first Nuzlocke on Pokemon Black version that I got for Christmas. Since it was my very first Nuzlocke, as you can imagine, it didn't go over so well and I ended up wiping in the Twist Mountain. Not the best place to wipe, but I reset that game and tried again, and it looks like I wiped just before the Victory Road. The whole idea for this video spawned when I was at PaPaSea with Forgotten HG. We made a video looking at a ton of old save files and encountered a Nuzlocke on Pokemon White that he decided to go on and finish. It reminded me of my first ever Nuzlocke on Pokemon Black, which coincidentally was abandoned at a similar spot. Let's start this game up again after starting it over 10 years ago and see if I can redeem my first Nuzlocke challenge. First, we have to assemble the team. I'm gonna assume that this Volby that I have in my party is alive because it's the same level that I caught it as and it has no EXP gained. It also wasn't in the death box you can see over here, so this isn't the worst start. The rest of the main box isn't as pretty as your mom's box, but much like her, we can still work with this. This Litwick is a great addition since Chandelure has one of the highest special attack stats in the game and has good coverage for the Elite Four members. Herdier, or Percy as I named it over a decade ago, is solid too since Stoutland is deceptively pretty strong in Pokemon Black and White. Next, I wanted something for N Zekrom, and strangely enough, the best option we have for that is Rodney the Stunfisk. I don't expect too much out of you, Rodney, but if you can stop an all-powerful dragon, then you deserve a spot in the Hall of Fame. After that, I looked at our box and wanted a fast Pokemon, but we really don't have that. Gothorita wouldn't be a bad choice, but I decided on Golurk instead because it has some fighting moves and ground moves to help against the Steel and Dark-type Pokemon we'll face. It's named Rocket Man as well, which is just perfect. Last up, we add this fun guy, the Foongus, which will evolve into an Amoonguss. It's bulky, has synthesis, and overall is one of the better defensive Pokemon in this game. Taking another quick look at the death box, we have quite a bit here. Those last 4 Pokemon are powerhouses, including my starter Emboar named Biggie, and this Joltik is even shiny and named Spoderman, which is probably why I never reset this game. Aside from Biggie the Emboar, we also have a Purloin named Snoop Kitty and Bambi the Deerling. If you think my nicknames are pretty weird now, they were even weirder back when I was a teenager. At the bottom of the box, I have some event Pokemon that I guess were going on at the time on the Nintendo Wi-Fi. And now with our team put together, let's head on out to the Elite Four. Well, before we do that, we have to grind up the team. The level cap is 52, which is quite a lot for some of these Pokemon that have been in the PC for over a decade. Since I'm playing on a physical cartridge, which I always do by the way, I don't know why I was pointing that out this time, I decided to grind up by trading over my team to a completed copy of Pokemon White, so I can then level them up there in a completely legitimate way and not thanks to one of these things that I may or may not have used on my copy Pokemon White back in 2011. I also teach the team some new TMs and trade them back over to Black version, then head right for the Victory Road. Normally you fight Charon around here, and I'm guessing I beat Charon and lost to a random trainer in the Victory Road, or maybe I lost most of my Pokemon to Charon and then just beat him and then decided to stomp the run. I'm not really sure, but either way we do have an encounter here which we get in a Bouffalance, which isn't a bad encounter by any means, but I'd rather have the Stoutland on the team, so I just leave it in the PC. I do remember Bouffalance being one of my favorite Pokemon when Generation 5 was new and I use it a lot on Pokemon Showdown, and because it's a buffalo with an afro, you can't not love it. Once we make it through the Victory Road, I regroup in the Pokemon Center, pull up the teams for each Elite Four member, and even pull up a damage calc, which is something I rarely ever do since I just really want to save this Nuzlocke. I decide to battle Shauntal first because her Pokemon are ghost types, so they're practically already dead anyway. Her first Pokemon is literally a mummy, so I lead with my Chandelier Onion thing. I give it an Expert Belt, so Shadow Ball should be amazing here. It's enough to one-shot her Cofagrigus, then on Golurk I run a Calc and it looks like Shadow Ball should still knock out, so I risk it and get the one-shot KO. And then she sends out Jellicent, the bane of any Generation 5 playthrough. Surely an Expert Belt Shadow Ball will knock out this stupid jellyfish, right? The damage calc says it could, but it lives a hit somehow. This is a problem because we have to take a hit from a water-type Pokemon on our fire-type Pokemon, but Surf doesn't knock us out. Since we're faster, I Shadow Ball again, and she full restores, and look at that, she lives another hit. Her Cursed Body ability activates, disabling Shadow Ball, so I just go for Psychic in case she doesn't heal, but she does. We're forced to switch now into Amoonguss, but this is still a little sus. We tank a Surf, then take a Shadow Ball which lowers our special defense. At least we have Giga Drain, which it didn't KO. Surely now she'll heal, but no, she Shadow Balls again, gets another special defense drop, and then I just Sludge Bomb because I thought she would heal, but she didn't. She lives the Sludge Bomb, but we get bailed out by the poison, which then takes her out. That was pretty close. Next up is our own Chandelure. I would love to have an honor battle here, but we can't. And staying in with our mushroom doesn't seem like a good idea, and since I'm expecting a flamethrower, I go into Rocket Man to burn out the fumes, but Shauntal must have predicted that because she goes for Shadow Ball, which we barely lived. I was considering going into my own Chandelure to get the Flash Fire boost, and thankfully I didn't. In hindsight, it also wasn't worth it because we would have risked a speed tie, and if I lost that speed tie, I would have lost Chandelure. We have to switch again, so I go into Stoutland expecting another Shadow Ball, which we're immune to. She goes for Shadow Ball, and next I go for Crunch, and we outspeed and do just under half. She then goes for Payback, which does like nothing to us, so I Crunch again, she lives, of course, and then she Paybacks again just to fall in the following turn. Down goes Shauntal, and next up I decide to fight Grimsley. He leads with Scrafty, so I lead with Volibee. Volibee has Eviolite, so it should take hits pretty nicely. It's also named Eggman, which is just a great nickname. I go for Air Slash and skillfully get a flinch, so I go for it a second time as Grimsley sand attacks. It looks like he might be in potion range, so I Air Slash again, and luckily he doesn't heal. We land the hit, and we KO Scrafty without taking any damage. For his Crocodile, I go into Amoonguss, which is also holding a Rocky Helmet. We take a Dragon Claw pretty well, then expecting an Earthquake, I just Giga Drain. Earthquake does a bit less than I thought, and Giga Drain causes Crocodile to go all the way down to 1 HP. I really need to stop doing that, since a lot of times in this video, we just knock things down to like 1 HP. Grimsley heals, so I Giga Drain again, then he heals again as I Giga Drain and miss the knockout again. Next we take an Earthquake and knock out with Giga Drain, putting us at just over half health. On Liepard I expected a Fake Out, so I stay in for the Rocky Helmet damage on Amoonguss, then I Synthesis to put us out of range of falling to a Night/critical hit. We go back and forth for a bit with me healing and doing damage with Rocky Helmet until Liepard eventually falls, leaving just Bisharp. Earthquake from Stunfisk won't one-shot it, so instead I stayed in Synthesis to get some Rocky Helmet damage off on the Bisharp. After that I Giga Drain for more damage, putting Bisharp at just under half health. Now is a good chance to switch to Stunfisk and take a hit, just to KO with Earthquake. That's 2 down and 2 more to go, plus 2 more if you count N and Ghetsis. For Caitlyn we match up well with 2 Ghosts and a Dark type. On her lead Reuniclus, I just Shadow Ball with Chandelure to knock it out, and from here I just expect Chandelure to sweep. Second up is Musharna. It takes a Shadow Ball and just sets up Reflect, which is essentially a wasted turn. She then full restores, but we're able to knock it out without taking any damage. On her Sigilyph, I know it has Shadow Ball, but I know we can one-shot it, so I stay in, and to my surprise, it outsped us. We live the hit and get the knockout with our Shadow Ball though. All that leaves now is her Gothitelle, which might live a Shadow Ball from Chandelure since Gothitelle is pretty bulky. I just chance it again and go for Shadow Ball, which gets the knockout. A bit risky, but now let's move on to Marshall's room. He throws out his throw first as we lead with Rocket Man the Golurk. Earthquake looks like to be a 2-hit KO on his Scrafty, but the first one does just under half. We can still tank any hit from throw, as it just paybacks a couple of times before falling. Next on Sock, we need to switch, so I go into Amoonguss to get some Rocky Helmet damage off. It goes for Stone Edge though, which doesn't make contact or get Rocky Helmet damage, so I Sludge Bomb, do over half, and get the poison. From here it's an easy knockout for Amoonguss, and then in comes Conkeldurr. Similar to Sock, Amoonguss can just slowly chip away at it, and then do the same to Mienshao for the most part until I go into Chandelure to finish it off with Psychic. Before fighting N, we fight Reshiram. I kind of forgot about this part of the game, but it does count as an encounter, so I just check my Master Ball at it, name it Revive, then add to the team over Volibee, since it's going to help us revive this Nuzlocke. Now for N. He leads with the Zekrom, and the game just makes us lead with Reshiram. At first I was worried that Zekrom would have Draco Meteor or some strong dragon move to knock out our Reshiram, but then I remember that this is just a vanilla Pokemon game and Zekrom doesn't have anything to hit us too hard. I just hammer away at it with some Dragon Breaths, which must have smelled really bad because we get the paralysis. We eventually get the knockout and in comes Caracosta. I don't want Reshiram to take a rock move, so I go right into Amoonguss and bait out a full restore because it has sturdy, and then we promptly knock it out with another Giga Drain. Next, N sends out some ice cream, and everybody knows that mushrooms and ice cream don't mix too well together, At least not the type of mushrooms I can show on YouTube, so I go into Shauntal and eat a blizzard and knock out with a flamethrower. For some reason, he then decides to set up hail instead of going for an attack on the second turn, so we just knock it out. Then on Arceus, I switch it to Stunfisk and knock it out with a Thunderbolt. On Klinklang, I wasn't sure if this was a Zoroark or not, so I go into Reshiram and Blue Flare, which was the safer option, and it happened to be a Klinklang. Then on the real Zoroark, I just stay in, take a Focus Blast, and barely miss the knockout with Fusion Flare. I thought he would heal here or Focus Blast, so I go into Golurk to be immune to the Focus Blast just to fall to a Night Slash critical hit on the next turn. Not exactly a clean ending, but Stoutland can finish off the rest of his Intrepid team. Then finally, we have Ghetsis, the last trainer in my way of completing my first ever Nuzlocke. Kind of crazy to think how this was the first game I ever started Nuzlocke on over a decade ago, and now we're at the final battle. Now for Ghetsis, we can get this win if we're smart. We lead Reshiram because it just jumped to lead of our party against his Kofagrigus. Fusion Flare does under half damage, then he goes for Toxic, which we skillfully dodge. I go for Dragon Breath on the following turn to try to play around the potion healing turns, but we take a Toxic. Ghetsis then heals anyway, like a coward, and double protects after being hit with a Fusion Flare. He even tries to triple protect, which shows how much of a coward he is, and we end up falling from that because of the Toxic. Not a big deal really, since this is the final fight, and Shauntal can get the revenge knockout. On his Buffalo, I just wing it and go for Flamethrower to make it extra crispy, which does under half damage. We barely take an Earthquake with Shauntal, so I just switch to Golurk, take a hit, then miss the K with Brick Break and take another hit. I really thought we'd knock out that Brick Break, so now I have to switch, but I do the risky thing instead of just letting Golurk fall, to get an easy switch into Stoutland to finish off the Buffalo. Ghetsis then sends out his ace Pokemon Hydreigon, which is an illegal level, so not only is Ghetsis a coward, he just cheats as well. I go for Toxic after dodging a Focus Blast. Expecting another Focus Blast, I go right to Shauntal, and he does that and I take no damage. After that, I go into Stoutland, take a Dragon Pulse, then I stay in trying to get some damage off, but Stoutland falls as well. That's 3 deaths already, so things aren't looking too hot for us. We still have Stunfisk, Amoonguss, and a half-dead Shauntal, which might be enough for Ghetsis though. I just send out Stunfisk to take a Surf, and then miss a Stone Edge as the poison drops Hydreigon to really low HP. This isn't too bad, since I can just go straight to Amoonguss and eat the next Surf as Hydreigon falls from the poison. Next comes Electros, which I know has Flamethrower. It's the best move Ghetsis can go for in this situation on our Amoonguss, but Ghetsis is pretty dumb, so there's no telling what he's gonna do. I ponder our options for a little bit and decide to just go into Shauntal, expecting the Flamethrower, which he does go and get the Flash Fire boost from. With this boost, Flamethrower will do more damage, but again, it narrowly misses the knockout. Ghetsis then proves why he's dumb and goes for Wild Charge, which just takes us both out from the recoil damage. We each have 2 Pokemon remaining, and Ghetsis can go onto either Seismitoad or Bisharp. Seismitoad would be ideal since we go into Amoonguss, and luckily he goes right to Seismitoad. It just goes for Rain Dance, then falls to 1 Giga Drain. All that leaves now is his Bisharp. We have Rocky Helmet to help out on our Amoonguss, but if Night Slash gets a critical hit, we might be in trouble. I go for Giga Drain first to do some more damage and heal a little bit to put us out of critical hit range, then I just go for Synthesis to ensure we're definitely out of critical hit range. I'm pretty confident Amoonguss can outpace the Bisharp, and we even get a lucky Effect Spore to put the Bisharp to sleep as we Synthesis on the next turn. Because Bisharp is asleep, I make the risky play of going to Stunfisk because finishing my first ever Nuzlocke with a Stunfisk just sounds really funny. Our derpy flat electric fish thing comes on in, I click Earthquake, Bisharp doesn't wake up, and falls to the Earthquake, meaning we beat Pokemon Black how Nintendo— wait, wrong video. Meaning we completed my first ever Nuzlocke on Pokemon Black after starting it over a decade ago. Now, admittedly, I don't fully remember how I lost this Nuzlocke originally, or if I just stopped playing maybe. And this wasn't my first ever attempt at a Nuzlocke, but it was on the same game and cartridge even, at least. We'll still count it though, as I definitely didn't cheat and reset against Marshall after Amoonguss got hit with a critical hit. And if you want to see more Nuzlocke, consider leaving a like and subscribing for more videos, and checking out my Twitch channel link in the description where I play a lot of Pokemon. With all that out of the way, thank you so much for watching, have a great rest of your day, I'll see you all next time, and bye bye.